having known that I was part Indian, and my grandmother and my mother, and this is always a connection there. When I came to Taos in 1973, I felt that connection of being part of this Indian subject matter, this ethnic quality. The main focus is still life. I prefer the older artifacts, the ones that seem to tell a story or have more history to them. It's like an older person has more richness or value in life, or it can teach you more than a young person. So I like the older objects, the older pots, and blankets and things, with the corn and new things too, I think.
I like the seasons here. Right now, I'm more keenly aware of the seasons than any other single factor. I love what happens to the sun in the fall and the winter months when the days are long. I love it when the sun gets low and when the light gets yellow and when the shadows are so dominant. Santa Fe is my very special spot on earth. It took me about 25 years to finally get here as a full-time resident. And in the meantime, I've traveled a lot of places around the world. They're very exciting and fascinating, but I wouldn't leave Santa Fe for any place I've seen. It's just a magic spot for me.
Most of sculpture is, I'm sure it is, of painting, any art, is thinking about it. You know, you do 90% of it in your head, and then you got it in your head, and then you can hardly wait to get to the clay to get it on to knock it out. I've been thinking about this piece for a long time. However, they don't always come off as they're in your head either. You learn something each time you do one. Each mistake you make teaches you not to do it again on the next piece. I will always be doing representational art. I will always be doing realist art, and I live in the West, so perhaps it will have a bit of a Western influence. But I think that in order to grow, you have to change. You have to, I find change stimulating, so maybe doing things a little bit differently as in the next 50 years will produce something else I don't even know.
You can only look into the future by standing on the shoulders of the past. I think that I'm geared that way. I think I've developed myself to the point of almost living in the past. You have to almost be a part of it. You have to respect, you know, where you are and what you're doing, and in a statement of realistic art. And I think anybody that's doing this is making a statement in history. If the artist doesn't put it down, maybe it'll never be expressed. Maybe no one will ever know it. If people can look at my painting and say, you know, that guy's a storyteller, that really satisfies me. That says it all for me.
The love of who I am. My mother and father made me proud of who I am. I was always proud of them, the hardships they went through. I think a lot of it is that, and the way the government and the Anglo people in the beginning had treated our patches. I think a lot of that is making who I am very important to me. What I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to teach the students, is to look at the beauty that you can see in the Indian. Make the Indian himself proud of what he sees you doing. Make him look at it and feel, God, that's great. Makes him feel good. It may be done in a very contemporary approach, almost abstract, but the beauty of the lines. And I'm saying, here you are. This is the way you are right here. This is the way we look.
If you don't paint every day, If painting isn't your life, you forget your mistakes, so you don't progress. If you paint all the time, doing it deepens your concentration, helps you say, okay, this time I'm going to do it and I'm not going to screw up that way. And so little, by increments of mistakes and empirically, you improve your work. Tickles me that people think that representational painters copy nature, because all we have is white paint and black paint. Those are the limits of our excursions in visual brightness. And you put white and black paint next to that reality, and it's pitiful. So we start making compromises with reality before we even start painting.
Sometimes you have to stop and figure. Now, this guy's been out of contact with white men for 7 months. What's his clothing look like now? He may have traded for a new felt hat, and he may have a nice cloth shirt, but by now, he may be pretty much all in buckskins and things that the Indians made. It's all in what you know and what you've learned. And as far as doing New Mexico, you couldn't have a better place for the light, the clarity of the light. And in fact, quite often I have to look outside to see what a blue sky looks like. I'm so used to Connecticut where it was always overcast. And beautiful cloud formations we get here, just fabulous. Especially the sunsets, or when a storm's coming up. We can see it from the south. And the light and the color, just so exciting.
We're all trying to create images the way we see them, and we try it within our own personalities and in our own personal way. We're trying to make music with what we do, as well as make visual images. Music is a transient thing. It's not permanent. It can be repeated, but it isn't going to be repeated because it takes the interpretation. Well, in a sense, that's what we're doing. We're interpreting what we see. I've been fortunate. I've had people throughout my career who have been of great help to me, and I'm very grateful to them. And interestingly enough, all of them have said that you can't repay me. What you do is pass along to someone else what you know and what you've learned. And I've tried to do that.
We were going to different ceremonies, and they took me to a Sundance. It's the first Sundance I'd ever seen. That was a real experience. I had no idea that those people were like that dedicated and incredibly proud and generous people. That trip, it was, it was 9 years ago, was probably the real foundation of what I do today, because it gave me a respect for the Indian people that I really had no idea was there. You know, I'd only learned through some books and some of my experiences up in Wyoming, and it was unbelievable. And I was only going to be up there for about 2 or 3 weeks, and after I got up there and got acquainted with the people, I just didn't want to leave, and that's kind of how that evolved.
Feller told me one time, he says, I don't do nothing that don't make you bow-legged. Luckily, I guess the public likes what I like. If suddenly cowboy art no longer sold and seascapes were what you had to paint to be an artist, I guess I'd starve to death or go back to work on a ranch, because I really do believe that an artist has to love what he's trying to portray. And I feel that way about cowboys and ranches. And it's not just cowboys, it's the livestock, the horses and the cattle and the wildlife, the deer and the elk, and all the things that are on a ranch, and the land too. All those things are what I love. And And if I had to go paint seascapes or something, I guess I'd quit.
I know there's a nostalgia in my things because I remember how it was and how happy I was. I came west as a big city kid and was thrown out on the ranch. I didn't know how to put a saddle on a horse or anything else. And in 3 years, I was breaking horses for other ranches and all that. So there is this nostalgia, and I'm sure that that's part of, in my individual case, of people seem to accept it. I think it's an interpretation of what people already have in their heart. Most of us are here in New Mexico because we want to be. And when someone interprets the qualities that attract them, regardless of painting, just in themselves, and they find it in a painting or a piece of sculpture, I think it's attractive to them. I think art's such a free thing and so personal to everybody that let everybody do the thing he feels comfortable in.
There's something way down inside that you draw from, and you have a little additional edge, I think, and inspiration in doing this type of subject matter from just having been here all your life. It's part of me. I built my reputation doing things of the West, and Southwest in particular. The Indians, the working cowboy, the Hispanic, Santa Fe Trail, love wagons. Something about a wagon that I just, it's so romantic. I'll always put a wagon instead of a pickup at all costs. I was always the kind of guy that I wanted to have a big ranch and ride into the sunset and all this sort of thing. So maybe that's why I'm doing a lot of Western paintings now. It's fulfilling that boyhood dream.
All art is storytelling. Illustration storytelling, except you're using somebody else's story. To me, I'm telling a story, especially in this painting back here. That's how I felt when I looked at that scenery that afternoon. Foreground's always the hardest thing in any painting. Is the middle ground, the background is a snap. It's this doggone little bush here in the front that really bugs you, and you worry about that the whole time you're painting this thing. Is what are you going to do with this foreground? As you mature, you realize that more and more of what you feel inside has got to go into that painting, and it's not just a spontaneous eruption. You know, it's got to be planned and it's got to be thought out, and you have to be able to communicate. Art really is communication in its truest sense. It's just like reading a novel or watching a dance or watching a movie. You're communicating with one other person, and you're trying to tell that other person exactly what you felt.
You bring something to the painting, and that's why I do realism. That's why I want you to see this kind of a figure. So I can get you to feel what I felt when I saw this man and when I wanted to tell you how he felt, so that you can see in his face all the misery and the distrust and the love and the life that he felt. And that lives on, and that's why it's important for me. The only way I understand how to do that is realism. So what I do is I set the mood, the colors, and everything first in the surround, and the center of interest I paint last, because that has to relate to the background. Good morning, America, how are you? Say, don't you know me? I'm your native son. That's me, you know?
I won a prize for the best drawn rose in school. So the minute I brought that home and my father saw it, he went out and bought everything, watercolors, pastels, pencils, charcoal, and dumped him on me, and then never said another word. And that was smart. See, I believe in enjoying and having fun. I tell all the young people, try all the mediums so you know which one that you really can work with and love dearly, and work with all of them too. Because the human eye, and the artist's eye particularly, who has been trained to see color, or pick up hundreds of colors, and it's their own, it's their signature. Each artist sees color differently.
I feel I'm really continuing and part of the old tradition of New Mexican artists who came out from Chicago and from the East many, many years ago, from the commercial art and illustration field, settled in Taos and started to paint the wonderful countryside and people. I enjoy going out and painting nature, the effects of light and air and atmosphere on these wonderful patterns one finds in nature. So I think that that's what an artist really does, is to show people the way he sees things or she sees things. Everybody has their individual response to stimuli, and I think that I serve my profession best by sharing my individual view, love, and excitement with these wonderful subjects, with people who look at my paintings.
Your art is a reflection of your soul, and it is an impression of what's on your mind and in your heart. And we were talking earlier about what is originality. And if you just are yourself, that is original. That's the only other, there's no one else like you. No one else sees the way you do. I'm just trying to be myself, and essentially I try to paint positive things, things that are good, things that are beautiful. I make myself do these kinds of subjects every once in a while because you're always dealing with the same problems in painting. You're dealing with planes of light and effects of light and how light falls on shapes. I'm always amazed at how artists can observe the same thing and come away with totally different impressions. So in essence, it's easier to be yourself than it is to be anything else.